The era of live-action remakes is no longer just a trend. It's become a permanent fixture in Hollywood. It feels like new ideas are running dry, and studios keep turning to past successes. A simple animation remaster from 50 years ago might be enough, but the obsession with realism is here to stay. This has officially gone too far. A live-action remake of a 70-year-old animated classic might still make sense. But just months before Moana 2 hits theaters, Disney is already filming its live-action remake, with Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson reprising his role. And that's not all. A Tangled remake has also been confirmed, with rumors that Florence Pugh could play Rapunzel, and this is just the beginning. Today, we're taking a look at all the live-action remakes so far, how audiences have received them, and whether they've been box office hits or complete flops. To pinpoint the first true live-action remake, we have to jump to 1996 with the release of 101 Dalmatians. This film recreated the 1961 animated classic using real actors and live animals. It was a massive success, grossing $320 million worldwide on a modest $67 million budget. The film also boasted an impressive cast, earning several award nominations, including Best Makeup and Costume Design. Glenn Close's iconic performance as Cruella de Vil even earned her a nomination for Best Actress in a Comedy or Musical. Due to its success, a sequel was released 4 years later. However, it was a critical and commercial failure, another case of stretching a story beyond what was necessary. This flop led producers to believe that audiences were no longer interested in seeing live-action adaptations of their childhood animated classics. So, they took a different path, one shaped by the rise of 3D digital animation. Alice in Wonderland. Based on Disney's 1951 animated film and inspired by Lewis Carroll's classic novel, Alice in Wonderland has been adapted countless times. The original story consists of 2 parts, but despite its fame, Disney's animated version was never one of the studio's biggest hits, barely breaking even at the box office. While Tim Burton's version tells a similar story, it makes significant changes. Alice is now an adult, and new characters are introduced. Adaptations of Alice in Wonderland date back as far as 1903, with silent black and white versions, followed by a star-studded 1933 production. The reason for so many adaptations? Lewis Carroll's works entered the public domain 50 years after his death, making them free for anyone to use. Tim Burton's Alice in Wonderland was a massive success, featuring his signature dark and whimsical style, stunning makeup, and a star-studded cast. With a $200 million budget, the film grossed over $1 billion worldwide. It was popular enough to justify a sequel, but like most follow-ups, it flopped. Maleficent. Unlike traditional live-action remakes, Maleficent was more of a spin-off, offering a fresh take on Sleeping Beauty. Instead of simply recreating the animated classic, this film aimed to expand the story by giving the iconic villain an emotional backstory. This approach, exploring the origins of well-known characters, particularly villains, proved to be a compelling formula. We've seen a similar strategy with Cruella, and later with Wicked, both of which delve into the past of famous antagonists. Cinderella, the ultimate classic. Based on Charles Perrault's fairy tale, Cinderella has been adapted countless times over the past 200 years, as the story has long been in the public domain. This version was a pure live-action remake, staying incredibly faithful to Disney's 1950 animated film. With Kenneth Branagh as director, a strong cast, and a box office hit, Audiences responded positively. The film smartly used realism where it mattered, particularly in its lavish production design. The Jungle Book. Disney had already released a live-action Jungle Book in 1994, Rudyard Kipling's The Jungle Book. But since that version was more of a sequel than a remake, it didn't quite resonate with audiences. In 2016, Disney went back to the original 1967 animated film, bringing it to life in a stunning CGI-heavy production. Unlike previous remakes, this film had a major challenge: making the animals talk while maintaining realism. This marked the beginning of a new phase for live-action adaptations, the era of hyper-realistic CGI animals. Some viewers felt they went overboard, especially with the enormous King Louis, but there's no denying that his scene was one of the most memorable in the film. Directed by Jon Favreau, The Jungle Book was a massive success, earning over 5 times its budget and featuring a strong voice cast that helped bring the characters to life. Beauty and the Beast. Despite initial doubts about director Bill Condon, Beauty and the Beast surprised audiences, becoming a massive box office success. It is now Disney's second highest grossing live-action remake. This film faithfully recreated the beloved 1991 animated classic, while also drawing inspiration from the 1994 Broadway musical. The biggest differences? Expanded character backstories and deeper character development. The blend of live-action performances with CGI animation was executed beautifully. A significant part of the film's success came from its music, featuring performances by Celine Dion, Ariana Grande, and John Legend. However, the movie also stirred controversy over Disney's first openly gay character, a moment that some felt was a bit forced. Dumbo, a different take on a classic. Tim Burton's Dumbo is a special case. While it's based on Disney's 1941 animated classic, the live-action adaptation made significant changes, completely erasing the original's essence. Disney opted for a more realistic approach. The animated Dumbo was a fable, meaning the animals could talk and narrate the story. In this version, however, the animals remain silent, forcing the introduction of new human characters while eliminating beloved ones, like Timothy the Mouse, Dumbo's best friend. Another major omission was the famous pink elephants on parade scene, a surreal sequence of hallucinatory imagery caused by Dumbo accidentally drinking alcohol. Critics had mixed reactions, and while many expected a film with Burton's signature style, Dumbo struggled at the box office, barely doubling its initial budget. Some speculate that its release was overshadowed by the highly anticipated Avengers: Endgame, which dominated theaters that same month. Aladdin, a surprisingly huge success. When Disney announced a live-action adaptation of Aladdin, expectations were lukewarm. The film presented a major challenge, recreating its fantastical sequences in a way that felt authentic. One of the biggest hurdles was replacing Robin Williams' iconic portrayal of the genie. Will Smith took on the role, a bold move that initially sparked skepticism. Another key factor in Aladdin's original success was its music. A Whole New World even won a Grammy in 1992.
I can open your eyes, take you wonder by wonder, over, sideways, and under, on a magic carpet ride. A whole new world, a new fantastic point of view. No.
The live-action version expanded Jasmine's backstory, giving her a stronger narrative arc and adding new musical numbers. While reviews were mixed, the film was a massive financial hit, grossing over $1 billion worldwide on a $183 million budget. The Lion King, a photorealistic experiment, but was it really a live-action movie? Technically, no. The 2019 remake of The Lion King used photorealistic CGI animation and did not feature any human actors. The film is almost an exact replica of the 1994 animated classic. The biggest challenge? Making the hyper-realistic animals talk like humans. While the animation was technically impressive, the realistic designs made the characters feel somewhat expressionless. Musically, Disney couldn't afford to fail. Bringing back Hans Zimmer was a crucial decision, but replacing Elton John with Beyoncé was a bold move. The result? A record-breaking success. The Lion King became Disney's highest-grossing live-action remake by far, earning $1.6 billion on a $260 million budget. Lady and the Tramp, the streaming era begins. By the end of 2019, Disney released Lady and the Tramp, another hyper-realistic remake similar to The Lion King. But at this point, audiences were starting to feel fatigued by these live-action retellings. Unlike previous remakes, Lady and the Tramp was the first to skip theaters entirely, debuting exclusively on Disney+. This marked the beginning of a new era, where live-action remakes were no longer guaranteed theatrical releases. Mulan, a missed opportunity. Mulan took a more dramatic and realistic approach than its 1998 animated counterpart. The gap between original and remake was also getting shorter, with only 22 years between them. While critics praised the film for its historical context and action sequences, Mulan was a disappointment for fans. The removal of Mushu, the beloved dragon sidekick, voiced by Eddie Murphy, was met with major backlash. Even worse, the elimination of the film's iconic musical moments. Director Nikki Caro, whose experience with large-scale productions was limited, faced criticism for her handling of the project. The film also struggled in China, a crucial market for its success. Due to the pandemic, Mulan skipped a traditional theatrical release and premiered on Disney+. Pinocchio, a total misfire. The 2022 remake of Pinocchio was one of Disney's biggest live-action failures. Not even the powerhouse duo of Robert Zemeckis and Tom Hanks could save it. Despite staying faithful to the 1940 animated classic, the film failed to connect with audiences. Adding new abilities to Pinocchio felt unnecessary, and critics slammed the excessive and poorly executed CGI. Skipping theaters and heading straight to streaming was a wise decision. But Pinocchio was also completely overshadowed by Guillermo del Toro's stop-motion adaptation that same year, which had a much stronger artistic vision. Peter Pan and Wendy, a directionless adaptation. By 2023, the live-action fatigue had fully set in. Peter Pan and Wendy premiered directly on Disney+ and was met with overwhelmingly negative reviews. Director David Lowery, known for more grounded storytelling, struggled to find the right tone for a fantasy film aimed at children. While the movie stayed true to the original 1953 film in some ways, it also introduced several narrative changes that didn't sit well with audiences. Jude Law delivered a strong performance as Captain Hook, but the child actors fell flat, making it difficult for viewers to stay engaged. The Little Mermaid, controversy and mixed results. From the moment The Little Mermaid was announced, the film faced constant controversy over casting choices. But despite the online backlash, audiences received the movie fairly well, with respectable ratings. However, its box office performance wasn't as strong as Disney had hoped. One of the film's strengths was how it deepened the characters, moving beyond outdated tropes. Ariel's arc was expanded, making her more than just a princess searching for love. These modernized elements helped The Little Mermaid find an audience, even if it didn't become a major box office sensation. The failure of the new Snow White movie came down to a mix of controversy, bad reviews, and behind-the-scenes issues. The film took heat for casting choices, the way it portrayed the seven dwarfs, and for straying too far from the original story. On top of that, it faced multiple production delays and setbacks that hurt both its budget and its release. As a result, the movie ended up losing over $50 million. A lot of people are scratching their heads wondering where the $250 million budget actually went. That stands in stark contrast to Wicked, which, with half the budget, delivered stunning practical sets that felt alive on screen. To make matters worse, Snow White broke the record for the lowest rated Disney remake ever, scoring a brutal 2 out of 10. Disney dropped another movie just 3 months later, LILO and Stitch. This one had high expectations riding on it, and for the most part, it delivered. The film was a box office hit, but not without its fair share of criticism from fans of the original. Some weren't happy about the removal of Gontu, which forced Jumba to step into the role of the villain. Others questioned the redesign of Cobra Bubbles, especially since it seemed like a missed opportunity to bring back the iconic voice actor Ving Rhames. Still, the movie leaned into nostalgia in clever ways. Tia Carrere returned, this time playing a new social worker, and Amy Hill, who voiced Mrs. Hasegawa in the animated version, showed up as Nani and Lilo's neighbor. But probably the biggest shift in the story was how it handled the core message of the original: Ohana, no one gets left behind. In the new version, Nani does, in a way, leave her sister behind to chase her dreams in California. Even so, thanks to solid CGI work, a story that mostly sticks to the heart of the original, and a standout performance from Maya Kealoha as Lilo, all shot on location in Hawaii, the movie won over audiences and managed to get the public's stamp of approval. While Disney isn't the only studio making live-action remakes, it was the first to truly capitalize on the trend. Most classic animated fairy tales are tied to Walt Disney, not because the company created them, but because they took ownership of these stories and made the most successful versions. And this trend isn't exclusive to animated films. Hollywood has been remaking video games for years. In the TV world, some adaptations have been even more successful, like the recent Fallout, The Last of Us, and the award-winning Arcane. Even DreamWorks Animation is jumping on the bandwagon. This year, they're releasing a live-action adaptation of How to Train Your Dragon, one of their biggest hits from 2010. If it succeeds, we could see an entirely new wave of DreamWorks live-action remakes. Would they dare to bring Shrek, Madagascar, or Kung Fu Panda into the real world? As for Disney, their list of upcoming remakes seems never-ending. For younger generations who haven't seen the originals, accuracy might not even matter if the goal is to entertain or spark enough curiosity to get people watching the original on Disney+. Then, mission accomplished. This is what many now call selling nostalgia. The real question is, how long can they keep pulling from the past before they run out of classics? Disney's catalog is massive, but it's not infinite. And that wraps up our look at Disney's live-action remakes. But there are plenty more examples out there. If you know of any non-Disney live-action remakes, drop them in the comments. And if you enjoy this kind of content, don't forget to like and subscribe. See you in the next video.